Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everyone, or maybe good morning for those who are not in the Central Eastern uh, time zone here in Europe. Nevertheless, we're coming back with our webinars. Oh, great, awesome! And the last time we had Vinicius Bray, professor from MIT and from University in Porto Alegre in Brazil, who's teaching about concepts such as AI, data science, machine learning, generally business, like computation in business, right? So we have discussed a lot about spatial analytics, things like that. And today we have our next guest, who is one and only founder of Neo Group, and we'll talk about Neo Group. We had Nestor from the same group, Nestor Fabian Ayala, in our previous conversation, and right now we have Professor Alejandro Frank. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Alejandro. Hi there. How are you?
How are you? Hi, Maciej. Nice to see you again, and hi everyone, and thank you for having me here.
It's our pleasure. So, Alejandro, you have just mentioned in our studio conversation, and maybe you can use this as a form of introduction. You said that you're right now placed and you're broadcasting from a factory. And could you maybe elaborate a little bit more on that? Because, not so many people podcast and run webinars from the shop floor. So it's actually interesting. What happened that they closed you there? And could you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, first of all, I apologize if you hear strange noises here because I really in the factory. I am the director of NEO, the organization engineering group, and we try to join both things, the scientific perspective on Industry 4.0 and all the main trends, industrial trends. And also we want to bring all this knowledge to the industry and to the companies in the field, in the field of companies. So we have several consultancy projects because we can apply our knowledge in the companies, and we can also learn from these companies how they are doing their processes, how they are implementing technologies, and so we can learn from them. And this is a kind of loop, a positive loop of growing our knowledge and also helping companies. And now I'm visiting a company, a partner of us. The name of this company is Florence. They are a furniture factory, and they produce high standard furnitures for the Brazilian market. And it's very interesting because we are working with them on an Industry 4.0 project. They want to develop a kind of own Industry 4.0 model for this company. And the main point I would like to highlight is that they have as the main operational goal having a high mass customization. So they depend a lot of workers because they have a very high design and very high standard of furnitures, and they need to improve productivity, but they need to keep one of the main focus, which is having high qualified workers. So the point of them in Industry 4.0 is how to enhance these workers to be more productive through Industry 4.0 technologies, which in our view is smart working.
Okay. So high mass customization, and generally mass customization, this is like the thing now, right? This is like producing a lot of customization. So how does the customization work in the furniture industry?
Well, basically, you will find two kind of perspectives in this industry. You have mass production with modularization, and you will find other companies focused on customization with low volume of products. So this company here, they tries to join both things. Today, what they have is a very high intensive level of work in the factory to attend high volume and high customization, but they want to increase the volume of production even more, but keeping this characteristic of customization. So we are helping them to see what of the points can be more automated to change routines and to maybe not focusing just on workers, more in technologies, but also especially we want to help them with technologies, with Industry 4.0 technologies, AR, simulation, artificial intelligence, and other tools to enhance the workers' decision-making process, workers' operational activities, workers' interaction with machines, so that the workers can be more productive, even when they are the most flexible variable of the production system. So they want to keep workers, but having them more productive.
Okay, but does that mean that you're restructuring the workforce?
Basically, yeah, a little of that also. But we are first analyzing what kind of technologies can help these workers today. But of course, when we are analyzing technologies that will support workers, we need to think also on restructuring the workforce. Of course, we need to think the social aspects of workers, the organizational perspective of the company, how we will organize the processes, the manufacturing process, and other things. Therefore, we say that Industry 4.0 is not just about technology. Technology is the core, but you will need to manage a social technical system. You need to combine. Yeah.
But you're actually the first person that says that, yeah, Industry 4.0 may impact the jobs. And whenever I talk to someone else, everyone says, no, it's like Industry 4.0 actually creates jobs in the macro scale. But like considering for like from this, in this particular facility, this may mean that some people will lose jobs.
It's a good point. It's a good question. We need to consider two things. When we look at the global economy, I do believe that Industry 4.0 can create new jobs. Okay, but we need to think about what kind of jobs Industry 4.0 will create. Of course, in many cases, it's a high qualified work. What we do here in Brazil is try to find technologies that can support also those workers that are not so well qualified. So in many cases, you have substitution of technology for workers, but in the companies we have visited, they are concerned about how to preserve the jobs, even when they substitute workers for instance, in a production line. So we are helping them to reorganize the workforce also in the factory. For instance, some companies, they can implement technologies in one hand, but on the other hand, they need some more workers in the inventory or the quality control on other sides. So we help them to rebalance that.
Okay, so because what strikes me in all this Industry 4.0 conversation, and generally like this macro level type of World Economic Forum bullshit, which is effectively, yeah, it makes thousands of jobs and it's great. Yeah, like technically it is like that, but what makes thousands of jobs can be a tragedy for a single person, right? And
yeah,
what we also try to aim at Stanversity is like, like kind of like when we're like teaching leaders how to be better leaders, how to be digital champions, with this ethical principle, like whatever you do, and try to preserve the workforce, right? Try to find different applications of jobs rather than to do straight cost cutting, reduction, and automate it, right? This is kind of like the I don't know how you approach it in your projects.
Yeah, my first answer is that it's not just a positive perspective. It's nice to say that digital transformation just create works, but there are good and nice talks and also studies from one of the guys I really like is David Autor, a professor at MIT. He showed that in the American economy, it's like a U-shaped curve between the very low qualified workers that are more demanded today in the global economy, the high qualified workers that are more demanded. From one hand, the low qualified workers, they are losing salaries or the weight of the salaries. And on the other side, the high qualified workers, they are more valued today. But in the middle of the U-shaped curve, there is the middle level worker, technicians, machine operators, and all these kind of people. They are really being impacted in the global economy through digital tech transformation. So one of the things that we do in NEO, in the Brazilian economy, helping the Brazilian industry from the federal government and so on, is helping to think how we will help and support these workers that will be affected in this U-shaped curve, those that are in the middle of this U-shaped curve. So we need to think on retraining, reskilling, upskilling, all these things that are related to trainings in order to better prepare these workers to assume, for instance, a machine operator to become a digital operator, and so on. So this is a really very important discussion we need to have in the Industry 4.0 or digital transformation global discussion.
Okay, yeah. So I'm actually happy that you have raised this point. That this is not so black and white, and this is there's also the kind of the negative side of the things that are happening, because usually like we try to feed ourselves, professors and us educators, professors, consultants, managers, we try to feed ourselves the story that it's great for everyone, where in fact it isn't. And this is all about this skin in the game approach, that not everyone is equally affected, and so the risk of the digital transformation is not equally distributed. So actually this study, we need to share it in the comments. So if you have it, like, send it to us, we will post it in the comments, because it's super interesting.
And this is very, let me just add you something very interesting. We have, through the MIT World of Future initiative here in Brazil, we have investigated several leading companies in Industry 4.0. The main point is that most of the companies, they started with lean manufacturing, and then they reduce workers. After having a stabilization of the production process, now they are doing a kind of upgrade through technology. So most of the companies they lose more jobs through the reorganization of the manufacturing processes more than through the implementation of technology. And sometimes it's a little mixed, because we see a company that is reducing workers by the implementation of technologies. But we have to keep in mind that some of these companies, when they decide to implement new technology, they're in the same time reorganizing the manufacturing activities. And this can be the main effect of the worker reduction, not the technology itself, but the reorganization of the process. And of course, we want to help the companies also to think how to better use these workers in order to preserve also works. Especially here in Brazil, we are very concerned about jobs because we have many people that they don't have so much access to education, and we want them to have. We want also that they might have opportunities in the economy. So it's a very hot topic in the Brazilian economy, because we are being impacted by the digital transformation, and we have many people with low education, and we need to think how to help these people as well.
Okay. So kind of what I understand from that is, or when companies reorganize, they kind of restructure. But so the kind of like the lean processes, the Six Sigma processes, they kind of lead to that, versus the automation and scalability, which in fact is kind of obvious, because if you can produce more with the automation and scalability, you need more people, right, at the end of the day. So this is how you achieve the next paradigm of effects of scale. So that's actually super interesting. So Alejandro, coming back to your furniture project that you're working on. Okay. So you're saying that so what you exactly do there? You're trying to teach them about the technologies. You're kind of like work as the showroom facilitator. So this is the VR, this is the AR, or like how such project, how Industry 4.0 implementation project looks like within your group. Maybe someone from Poland will bring you here, and so you can.
Oh, this will be perfect. Yeah. Actually, we are not professors in the industry. We are more engineers. So
okay.
I need to change my position now when I'm in the factory. Basically, what we do is in this project specifically, we are doing three main stages. The first one is understanding the process, understanding the maturity level of the technologies that the company is using, and understanding also the main operational problems they have and need to be solved with digital transformation or digital technologies. Then we, after having this kind of diagnosis of the maturity level of the company and what are the main problems, in the second stage we are developing specifically what will be, how will look like the industry 4.0 model for this company. What kind of technologies are the most valuable technologies for this company? What kind of activities and processes are more suitable to be transformed or to be digitalized through the implementation of technologies in the company, and so on. So having an ideal model of the company. And the third stage of this project is helping the company to define the path and how to achieve from this current maturity level to the ideal level the company wants to achieve. So organizing the investment projects, organizing the roadmap of the sequence of project, like a kind of project manager management activity of how to organize all these technologies to achieve this higher level of
Okay, so how do you start the diagnostics? So so you use the ADMA methodology, or what type of method are you actually using to diagnose the problem or diagnose the process?
Okay.
Because clearly what we know about the digital transformation road mapping exercises, and they are also, this is part of our studies to teach to teach it at the end of the day, is like this digital maturity assessment, right? How do you approach it?
Yeah, this is a good question, because usually businessmen, they ask us, tell me what level of Industry 4.0 I am currently with my company. We don't like to say what is the number of the company, what is the level of the company, but we use two things to base our diagnosis. The first one is our 4 smarts model of Industry 4.0. So we consider, we analyze the company, not only the manufacturing level, the smart manufacturing, but also the smart working dimensions, smart supply chain, and smart product and services, and how these things are integrated. And we use also an adaptation. We have our own adaptation of the Architect maturity model to see the different stages. And we have also another tool we have developed based on our scientific studies of different technologies that can be used in each of these levels. So we start with this, first understanding the processes of the company, how they are operating, every process, how they are doing, and then trying to organize in these two main frameworks, our 4 smarts framework, and also within each of these boxes of the 4 smarts, how are the levels of development of this evolutionary perspective of the architect model of Industry 4.0. So, and then we start to see how advanced the company is in each one of these things. And then we use other quality tools to understand the main problems they have in all these dimensions. For instance, we use one of the tools. It's a big set of tools that we use, but for instance, one of them, we have a kind of a digital Ishikawa to see the main problems that they are having in 6 main dimensions in for instance, the manufacturing, like in operations, methods, machines, and so on. And we try to deploy all these problems. And then we place these problems in the technologies they are using to try to understand what are the levels of maturity they have. But our point is that we don't try to find a final number to say, well, they are in the 3rd level of the maturity level, and so on. So we don't follow so much those very well-known models of Industry 4.0, because we are very concerned that maybe I have seen some companies, they have a very high level, maturity level in Industry 4.0, but their bottleneck, the main problem of the manufacturing process, is not solved, and it's not mature enough. So even they are very high in the level of how many tools they are implementing, they are not solving the main problem they have in the manufacturing process. So we think this company should be so high level in the Industry 4.0, placed in a high level in the Industry 4.0, or maybe the company is not mature enough because they are not solving the main bottleneck of the manufacturing process. So therefore, we focus a lot this is the noise of the factory. I'm sorry.
It's a real factory. It's a real factory.
It's a real factory. So we focus on the problem to see if the main problems of the production flow are well attended by technologies or not, and then we start to deploy in the other parts of the manufacturing process.
Okay, but so what you're saying is this is more about like qualitatively assessing the needs of the companies and what they're actually doing, rather than use one-to-one framework that looks amazingly on slides.
No, we have a team here. We are today we are here. Let me see here. We are six people from my group. We are in the shop floor. We are collecting data, discussing with all the coordinators, manufacturing coordinators, with all the workers, understanding the problem, mapping the process, identifying, understanding each machine, how the machine operates, what kind of data the machine collects or not. So we are really, it's not just like a professor consultancy coming in here and just asking for assessing a kind of questionnaire or something like that. We are in the shop floor working with them directly, because I really understand that Industry 4.0, it's a complex system of technologies. There is not just a single path of how to implement that. And each company has its own journey for the Industry 4.0 implementation. So what is a high level for one company, maybe it doesn't work well for another company. So we are doing a qualitative approach and working together with the company.
Okay, but so how long usually such projects? How long does it usually take? From like kind of diagnostics to because I understand this is like a long-term strategic project, right? This is not like you end and we are Industry 4.0 advanced level. This is rather you're probably moving towards the initial implementation of few cases, right? Rather than or pilots, rather than the full-scale implementation, right?
Yeah. What we do is usually we have these three main stages, which is assessing, defining, and then organizing the journey. It's usually around 1 year of project with the companies, and then there is the journey of implementation. We don't do implementation of technologies, but we have an ecosystem of partners, of technology providers. So sometimes we operate as a kind of orchestrator, helping to connect the company in the company's needs after we do this kind of project with the best players of the market, or those companies that could provide the best solution for the company. But then we have some system integrators, which are our partners, and these guys, they take care after of the long journey of the implementation of the technology, but they have already defined how it's going to be, the roadmap of the implementation. The board of directors understands what they need to implement and invest first and second, so on. The industrial directors, they know what they want to achieve with that in terms of information that they want to collect, what decision-making process they will be supported with these technologies, and so on. So everyone understands well what is the journey. So then comes the technical partners to help us to implement the technologies in a long journey. And this depends of how big the project, the process is.
Okay, cool. That's actually like you have like some real high level, like tangible consulting there. So it's actually super interesting, considering that this is well structured, and actually for me as a consultant. So kind of like to switch gear towards like the more of what we have promised to our audience, which is like the smart working. We have been discussing it within the studio, right? And so if I have, because of a COVID situation, if I have put all my workforce on home office and everyone is working on Zoom, and they can even turn on Miro board, and they know how to share screen, and have been on 2 webinars or 3 podcasts, is it already smart working?
Well, some guys will say that it is. We don't consider that this is smart working. Basically, there's two levels of smart working. There are people that are they analyze smart working in terms of the administration level of, or more the
Hmm.
white collars workers. And then I will agree this could be a kind of smart working. There are really great colleagues in Italy, especially. They work with smart working and they help organizations to organize a white collar workers environment to have a kind of remote work and having them on smart work profile. But in the industry level, on the shop floor, we know that this is almost impossible to having all the people remotely working and saying that this is a smart work dimension. We consider, yeah, that remote operation could be a part of smart working, but what we consider, especially as an industrial smart working, it's much more, it's broader than this. We consider that smart working is the it's a kind of approach that company will have in the industry for all domain to
Hmm.
consider how digital technologies can enhance their workers. And this is a very special point we need to highlight, because at the beginning of the Industry 4.0, on the dissemination of this concept, we heard a lot about that the most advanced level of Industry 4.0 is having autonomous processes. And then what is an autonomous process? It's a process that is not operated by workers. But today, the industry for all scholars, they are acknowledging that this is almost impossible. You cannot have all the process very high with high autonomy, or even today, maybe today it's impossible. You need a lot of workers. So then some people started to speak about the industry 5.0, which I disagree to say industry 4, 5.0, because we need to explore more still the industry 4.0 concept. But in the industry 4.0 concept, something that is really emerging is how to focus also the digital technologies not on the process to improve the process, but improve the workers. How my workers in the factory, like this factory we are today here, how these kind of companies that need an intensive level of workers in the factory, how they can be enhanced, these workers, by the technologies, digital technologies. So it's another kind of mindset. It's considering your workers and building an what we call a kind of anthropocentric perspective of the production system, a system in which the workers are still the center and you will support them by technologies like the use of virtual reality or augmented reality for the workers' operations, the use of sensors or smart watches, or the use of tablets or any machine interface for decision making process and so on. So it's using digital technologies to enhance workers and sometimes also having the workers in a remote environment.
Okay, so this is more about like what Elon Musk said, that every one of you, like there was like this audience, and Elon Musk said that every one of you is already a cyborg, right?
Yeah,
Considering that we have smartphones and we have almost unlimited computational power in our pockets. Like considering whatever we need to do, we can do it on our smartphone, and so in fact we are already cyborgs, considering like people 100 years before us. So we are kind of like, so if I understand correctly, this is about adding the tech stack, the right tech stack to the workers' abilities, right? And trying to make their life easier and their work more productive.
yeah. It's sometimes people think that it's about having a RoboCop. It's not just the RoboCop like the movie,
Yeah.
The it's not having a worker full of technologies around him, but it's thinking more about how technologies can really help the workers instead of thinking just because it's really sometimes we as scholars we say that industry 4.0 can create jobs, but when we speak with businessmen, they are very concerned usually how they can reduce workers in the factories because it's a high cost in the
Yeah, of
factory
course.
having workers. But we say, well, sometimes we need to think in another way. I think maybe that the workers I have, they can be more productive by technologies. Just to give you an example, in very manual production processes like the shoemaking process, Sometimes you have a high variation of products in the same line, and you can improve the learning curve, and you can accelerate the workers' capacity by using augmented reality. We have a company here in Brazil that they are using augmented reality. So the worker, when he or she receives a new package of components to make the shoe, he knows exactly what is coming, what is the sequence of operation that he needs to make in the process, because the augmented reality is supporting him in order to see the right sequence, the kind of product is coming, and so on. So this helps the worker to have a quicker or faster learning curve, and this helps to improve productivity. So it's a way to approach smart working, because I'm not automatizing the production line. I'm supporting the worker with technology so that the worker is more productive.
So it's like, so just what they're doing with this, how the AR works there. So I understand that they were glasses, right? And what they're doing with it?
Yeah, they use glasses, and the worker, he or she sees the kind of the production. I forgot the word name in English, but it's the list of items that he or she needs to build. So the worker doesn't spend much time on deciding if this is from the shoe A, B, or C. He already sees. He has the order how to produce, so he doesn't need to remember and recovering in his memory how was the order of assembling one shoe or another. So he has the sequence of production, so he can rely on the system. Of course, this could be also in a kind of other kind of interface, so like a dashboard or computer, or even so. But they use smart glasses because they have hands-free. They are hands-free. They see the product and the glass identify the product and localize the product and opens the list of the sequence of activities that the worker needs to perform during the shoemaking process.
Yeah, just so FYI for people who don't know how the shoe business works, it's like what I was told is like the shoe business production line is very, very, very unique versus their counterparts in apparel, because you can effectively like the variability is very high, so you can start producing from one pair of shoes and still have the same operating line, and you can produce like additionally like 3,000 or 4,000 more, but it doesn't scale. It doesn't scale in bulks. It's a very linear scaling process. So this is why this checklist.
Maybe just to add something that can clarify. One of the points we highlight is that smart working works better when the company maybe struggles to have production scales. You guys in Europe have usually many dedicated plants with high scalability and very dedicated plants. For instance, for us here in Brazil, we have many constraints in terms of the market demands. So companies, they need to use better the excessive capacity today. So we see many companies using the same production line for a high variety of products in the same production line. So this high variation of products demands high flexibility, and sometimes with very automated machines, you won't be able to attend a high variation of type of products you will have to produce in the same production line. So then you need to be more flexible to use the same capacity to attend different kind of products. And in this case, we believe the smart working can be a good answer, because the worker is the most flexible component of the production system, and you can, even in such cases, be more productive by supporting the workers.
So yes, so for instance, it's not only the case of Brazil, right? This is actually in Poland. We have a lot of like Poland is in this value chain like heavily dependent on German or French or Scandinavian or US companies. Even the group we have in our studies, right? They are from companies like that. So what happens, especially in assembly, automotive and assembly line of work is that you have this high-low type of production, which is this high frequency, low volume, right? That you receive a lot of different orders because you're effectively a subcontractor. You're not a plant itself, but you're a subcontractor. And for instance, I remember when working as a consultant with a company from the Pomerania region in Poland, which is like by the sea and the shipyard industry. So what they were doing is they were like producing, like for instance, that you need a certain part of the ship quickly assembled. And what they told me is that for them, having an augmented reality is actually super helpful, because when someone needs to quickly like plow something to the other part of the machine, they know they have a checklist in which like type of the electricity they need to do it. They know how well to, like, what is the minimum requirements, like the technical requirements, the strength of the material they are operating with, or right, what is the required speed. So when they are having this wielding mask, and they are actually see the wielders, they see the kind of, if everything is fine, they see the green lights. If something is off,
Exactly.
And then they this is the AR level that they are seeing. So kind of it's a quality control, right? You don't have, you only have one part of the ship which you need to assemble. You need to wield it properly, right? And if you screw it, like, people will die, right? Effectively. Yeah. So it's the same with the for instance, when one of our companies, right, this is the aviation sector, like the quality control is far different than in apparel, right? Like in apparel, at the end of the day, someone can have a hole in their jacket, but in aviation, people can die. So like this checklist and quality assurance, this is something I think the AR has the biggest potential. So what about the VR? Do you actually see the VR opportunities? Because I only see them, honestly, in training purposes.
Yeah, VR has a problem. This is other very important point. When we consider smart working, we also need to consider also technologies that can be limited in the worker field. What are the limitations? There are some physical limitations. They can be also legal limitations, and I can also after explain you some legal limitations. But for instance, you asked me about VR. VR has still the problem that it can be very it makes worker tired very very soon. So I've seen at MIT some projects with NASA present some projects, and they say that they can use for quality control with workers just for at maximum 4 hours VR tools with the workers. After that, workers start to feel very tired. So it's a cognitive problem limitation. So therefore, I believe that VR it's more limited to be used in the daily activities of the workers. Maybe you can use it when you have a very short activity of the worker, but in other cases, it has still physical or cognitive limitations for this kind of technology. So I've seen, as you in training, simulation, especially for product design, when you need to simulate, for instance, ergonomics activities. I've seen one of the cases here in Brazil, in the agriculture machinery industry, like tractors and harvesters. They use VR to simulate how will be the ergonomic process of the assembly process when the product engineers are still designing the product. So they design the product, they simulate how will be the assembly process to understand if the ergonomics aspects will be affected or not, and these kind of things, but not for long-term usage of this kind of technology.
Okay, but this is kind of like compare. It's probably that you will see more AR in practice versus the VR.
Totally AR. What we see more, it's AR in kind of checklist, pictures. Oh, I'm still in the factory.
Real factory.
Yeah. checklists, pictures, images, or interaction with other people that can see what you are doing. These kind of things that are most that we frequently see in the factories. The second level is the augmented reality, really like the Pokemon Go applications, like seeing things happening around you. It's not so used, but it's very used in maintenance. Probably it's a more. I have seen more applications there when they need to see like where to fix something or where to apply specific things. But
Yeah.
and also quality control, as you mentioned before. But of course, in my opinion, VR, augmented reality AR, it's much more applicable for smart working than VR.
Yeah, and also with the, for instance, with the warehousing, right? And that you just need to scan with your smartphone, and you just catch the sensors effectively, right? This is
Exactly.
something that is the real application. For instance, for H&M did this, and apparel industry, where you can actually reorganize the warehouse or actually a shop in the mall very very quickly. So this is, I totally agree. Like, and also in automotive AR, it's like if you have the parking assistance, right, in your car, effectively this is AR. It's when you have the screen, and for instance Audi has this system where you actually see the
Exactly.
curves, how you, this is the AR, very simple one,
Exactly.
very very basic, but effectively this is it. And I have also seen the also the Tesla like operates on AR. It calculates vectors, so it's actually like we are already seeing this. In fact, we are already seeing this is present. This is not the future. VR is still to be. So what else? Like, so you've mentioned the VR, you've mentioned AR, you've mentioned the application. So we all obviously understand the remote work concepts, and that it's actually, we have experienced it for better and worse. But what else? Like you mentioned
Yeah.
smartwatches and
Let me mention
tablets.
one very important: collaborative robots. There, we have one of the big players of collaborative robots, cobots manufacturer in the world. They are our partners, and we have a project with them to understand how to better enhance the use of cobots in the industry. Because there, if you browse on Google, you will find that you can search for cobots levels or levels of implementation. You will see that there are at least, I think, 5 or 6 levels of implementation of what is a collaborative activity with robots. Most of the applications that we are seeing today, it's focused on doing the same what the worker was doing before, but now by a robot that it's sharing the same environment. So you are, it's a kind of automation of workers activity, but you substitute the worker by a robot that can be in the same environment as other workers. But this is the level one of the usage of cobots, and the highest level is a really interaction or an execution of the same task together, the worker and the collaborative robots, like the worker assembling and the cobots helping the worker by fixing the panels, for instance, in a door, in car door or something like that. But this is still in the early implementation stages because needs to design the workers' activities. Many companies they don't know how to implement that. These guys from this company they say that companies first try to buy a cobot just to as an automation tool, and they don't see a potential to reduce workers' efforts, for instance, so that the worker can focus more on the more refined activities like assembling, which requires many details to be done, and the cobots to support the worker. So cobots is a field that I think, in terms of tools, in terms of technology, is mature enough, but in terms of the way how industry is using it, really needs, it has still a long journey to in terms of thinking the process in another way by usage of cobots.
So the technology is here, but the capabilities are not there yet.
Yeah, the company's capability. I mean, I'll
Yeah,
say
of course.
the company's
So
understanding.
why? But why is that? Like, because what we know is that they are not using this use case properly. We have already discussed it and we have identified. But why do you think where is the obstacle?
Yeah, I think two reasons. First, because it's a matter of investments. Companies are company. It's also because robots are seen as a competitors against workers. So in the operations manager's mindset, it's still a kind of battle between both. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that first is a kind of vision of what is a robot and what is a cobot and what a cobot can do. And the second thing is because it's easier to think about substituting a task than developing a new design of the work, because when you want to integrate both, you need to redesign how the workers' activities are performed today. So you need to rethink the production line, the assembly line, and how will be this integration between workers. And so you need to think deeply. And I think it's just a kind of it's still a journey of a maturity journey of the industry mindset of how to use these digital technologies. Another example, our partners from we have some partners from the 3D printing sectors. They as they tell us that today one of the bottlenecks of the 3D printers implementation in the manufacturing in the production processes is still preparing the engineers to think how to design for 3D printers, because you have a 3D printer there, but the design of the components that will be manufactured in a 3D printer are still the old-fashioned way of design. So, for instance, in this case, tools like generative design can support the product engineers to rethink that. But they tell us that it's still a problem because it's a mindset of the old engineers that need to be changed. Therefore, smart work is not just about implementing the tool; it's about preparing also the workers and the engineers' mindset to think about this technology and the usage of this technology in another way, like in 3D printers or also in cobots or in many other tools.
Okay, so this is effectively restructuring. Again, this is the restructure of work, right? Like the re-engineering of work, actually.
Exactly.
So you need to be Gemba, right, as they say, and you need
Mhm.
to understand what this person actually does, what is the lead time of this process, how this actually works, how
And this,
you have to improve it.
yeah, and just to add something, uh, in this research project I mentioned that we performed here in Brazil with MIT, we interviewed around 60 leading companies in the digital transformation domain. They are very well-known companies because their implementation of Industry 4.0 and so on. But I will say that I've seen maybe just three or five companies that they have really a clear digital leadership perspective. So one thing is implementing technology in your shop floor because you have a pain and you want to address this pain, you want to solve this problem. And another thing is having a large overarching view of what you want to achieve with digital transformation and how you will lead this process. And when we speak about redesigning the work activities, the process, in training workers, preparing workers, and all these kind of things. It's about leading the digital transformation of the company. Therefore, this kind of courses like the one you guys are offering, it's very important because we need to prepare the digital leadership, people that will think in will have an overarching view, will have a frameworks in the mindset to understand how to implement all these things, so that they when they think about using a cobot, they will think, well, I want to use a cobot, but I need to think what level, for instance, of implementation I can achieve, or maybe if I can try to achieve a higher level of implementation in terms of interaction with workers. Or I want to implement a 3D printer. I need to think if the engineers are prepared to design product components to print in the 3D printer so that I can take the maximum advantage of this tool. So this is all about also preparing leaders for the digital transformation. I think we are in the early stages of preparing the business means for implementing digital tools.
Yeah, I would say it's even, we need to even step back even more to the aspect of, okay, so I want this cobot, but this is actually for what? For my smart shop floor, smart working, or it will actually help with smart supply chain, or kind of coming to your 4S framework, right? Is this, or maybe we can create like intelligent product based on that, or whatever, or intelligent service. Like, can we actually, what is the strategic aim? And kind of like so kind of coming back to, I want to conclude our discussion, which was super inspiring, and thank you for that. Is like kind of like the way I see it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is all about like lack of with Industry 4.0. I think this term is a little bit artificial in a sense. It was coined by people from the present, where we didn't actually. It was also heavily influenced by the European and German politics, and also on top of that, it was heavily like what we want to do is the revolution through the data and revolution through the technology. But we still kind of didn't go through the manufacturing companies themselves. They're not a best in class when it comes to the leadership standards, right? They're not the Googles, Apples, and Facebooks of the world. They are not the Silicon Valley bring of innovators, right? This is simply because, and I'm wondering if this is like the lack of talent, lack of of being in such sector. But I'm just wondering if you have the same perspective, like working with such companies.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed your last part of your question. It was
so I'm just wondering if you have this
here.
That they are not best in class, right, when it comes to the leadership standards, such as Google, such as Apple, or to the best companies in the world effectively.
Got it. Yeah, my vision is that first, trend topics or trend words are good for industry in my point of view. We have the quality era, we have the knowledge management era, and now we have the digital transformation or Industry 4.0 era. I think these trend topics are good for industry because they push the leaders to think and to be more interested in new things. Of course, we don't want to be marketers of these concepts, and we want to help them to think good in the good implementation. But as a practitioner, I will say that when companies are interested in seeing, well, I heard about Industry 4.0, I want to see how to implement that. It's a good opportunity for me as a practitioner to discuss lean, discuss quality, and also trying to help them to implement technology. So I think that it's a good point having these programs because it helps companies to have a new consciousness about their needs. But of course, we need to think that maybe some old problems are not still solved in the companies. So we have new challenges with old problems together. We need to fix all these things together. And this is a part of how the leadership of the companies are. And then we need to also to help the company to rethink also leadership. So all problems and all visions are still there. It's not because we are talking about Industry 4.0 and it's that the third or the second revolution are already solved. They are still there. They are still with their problems, and we now have a cumulative of other challenges. So my point is, just as a reflection, we need to take part of this initiative because it's a good opportunity for companies to rethink their processes and implement technologies. We need to think. We need to know also the old problems to take an advantage to, through this new interest, helping them also to solve all problems. And we need to help them to reframe maybe sometimes the mindset of the companies, because sometimes it's old visions, and so they won't become a Google because they are not innovative, they are not thinking disruptions or radical innovations. They are just in the continuous improvement in small things. So I think that now, saying as a scholar, I think that we are challenged also to provoke also the industry to be more innovative and look for these opportunities also, and try to renew and refresh maybe their industrial mindsets. So your question is really broad, because I think it's a mix of factors that we need to work together. And even when we are talking about Industry 4.0, it's not just about technology, it's many other things that are around that we need to work together to be successful.
Yeah. So there's this case, like I just came to my mind. So of Maersk, the shipping company, right? The cargo company, and they were doing the data management. They knew exactly where the fleet was with the GPS systems and actually radio systems before GPS was a thing, and they were, actually getting this data in the sheets of paper, and they had a bunch of analysts like analyzing it in like 40 or 50 years ago, right? And this kind of gives me this feeling that whoever wanted to be data driven already could do it even before like Industry 4.0, right? So and these companies lead the industry now, right? So this is all about finding a way to get insights from the data. It's like Walmart's supply chain system that revolutionized the commerce in like 80s or 70s, if I remember correctly. They were the RFID, they were the first to implement the RFID. So I kind of like see it's like, if you wanted to be data driven, you already did something in this direction, right? So this is exactly the leadership mindset of winning on the market and actually being the first one. And this is something that we should work on, right? So obviously there is no silver bullet here, but we're trying, and this is what we're doing at Stanversity effectively. At least we're hoping for.
Exactly.
So, Alejandro, do you have any parting words for our audience? We have the feedback that it was a superb lecture, but we're shortly running out of time. So,
yeah. So I just want to thank you for this opportunity. You can browse also, if you want to learn more about our studies on smart working. We have published several works, and we are still learning about that, because it's not answered all the questions that we have. Some of them we have already answered, others are still open. And I hope also in the Stanversity course we had great discussions. It was really great to discuss with the leaders from different industries to see how they can implement, because in each kind of company, each kind of industry is very different. Although the challenges are the same, but the way they apply is very different in each one of these different sectors. And it was really great to share and discuss with them, and I really enjoyed to have this opportunity, and thank you for inviting me and having me here.
So we thank you, Alejandro, for being our like lecture twice already. We hope for more. We hope for more in the future. We have actually opened an enrollment for the second edition of our studies. We have just received an official, official acceptance from the university. So we are already running the second edition. So in case you're interested, in case you want to discuss, shoot us a message, ping us, write to us at stanversity.com. We are more than happy, and this is something that we're going to kick off next edition on late October. So it seems like a lot of time, but it will run very, very fast. So let us know if you want to discuss more. And today, my guest was Professor Frank from Brazil, from University at Porto Alegre. and also a person whom I admire in a sense that he's both a scientist and a consultant, and this is something like the path that is very similar to me. So Alejandro, thank you for finding the time. Thank you for being with us. Take care.
Thank you, Maciej.
Take care. Bye.